And here we go. There we go. All right. Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and we are going to do a live Q&A session today. We're going to announce some upcoming products that are coming out this weekend. We're going to talk about why they're there, where they sit in our overall Tetris of training, why they exist, and the design elements of all of that stuff. Design is usually the most important thing when it comes to any type of training program, because design means that it has intent. Intent means you're not wasting time. Ryan, do we have any upcoming events that we need to talk about? No? Okay. We have not yet done the calendar for 2025. I know we have an event on it, I believe in March. I don't have a final date on that yet. That will be co-taught with my good friend Summer Huntington, the creator of Steel, Mace, Vinyasa, Flow Yoga. If you're going to do yoga, that's the best thing you could possibly do. There is no better designed yoga program on the surface of the planet than that program. We will have a 6-day massive event that's open to about 20 people in Northern Washington in June. That's going to be on the east side of the mountains there, getting out into farmland. And that's going to be a 6-day event where people come and they stay in a great house, or let's call it a barn dominium, like a great hall, like a Viking great hall. And then you'll also be able to put up tents. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stay in a giant wall tent so I can drive my truck out there, so I can really enjoy being outside. That 6-day event will be Mace. Summer Huntington will be teaching the Mace portion of that, which will be Steel, Mace, Vinyasa. We will be combining that with heavy club. We will be combining that with staff fighting. That's the coolest seminar you're probably ever going to do. It is each training block rolls. So instead of doing Mace for 4 hours, which is boring, and I can't stand it when people do seminars like that, it goes in little 30 to 1 hour blocks, depending on what the goal of that hour is. So you're going to be constantly rolling every day. The first thing that you do is staff. The last thing before lunch is staff. The first thing back from lunch is staff. The last thing is staff. We try to get inside of that. There'll be at least 4 staff sections per day outside in the real environment in which you should be training. And that times 4 to be 24 staff training modules inside of that minimum. I can't remember what the full layout is, but I think it's 24 or 25 combined with everything else. In order to prepare for seminars, you should do the programs. You can show up without knowing anything, but it's going to be very, very hard on you. If you're going to be doing a staff, Mace, or a club seminar, you should definitely do a lot of heavy club. Heavy club will make you capable of doing everything else, specifically the two-handed program. And you can either do the basis of strength, the big program with all the movements so that you're more familiar with things like gun get-ups, or you can do the abbreviated version that's more focused on sports performance, which is the BJJ Heavy Club 1, which is basically mill squat program. And you should start running those programs, and you should run through at least 3 weights of levels 1 to 4. And mill squat program, that would be 1 to 3, and just keep racking up weight. Your goal is to get with heavy clubs, is to get to heavier clubs, because it makes everything else in the world seem easy, specifically every type of fight training. We always do our staff training as our dominant mode of fight training, because if you're 100 pounds, the thing that's most likely to allow you to win any confrontation is picking up weapons and knowing how to do it without forms, with only observe, orient, decide, act training. That is just pure neurological, making the decision training. So that June seminar is all decision-based training, from the first second of the first day all the way to the last second of the last day. It is decision-based training. Most fight training, specifically weapons training, is not decision-based training. That's why almost nobody can actually use weapons effectively. So that's what that seminar will be. I know we have other seminars coming up. I just don't know what they are, but I'm hoping to get a kettlebell seminar at the Bells of Steel Indianapolis location, which is super cool. We just don't have final dates on that yet. But the most important thing that you do is to leave home, go away, learn something, meet new people, and come back a different person. Famous concept of Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey, and we talk about that all the time. When we design our training seminars, we want them to do that for you, the athlete. We want you to train for it. We want you to leave home. We want you to go on some type of adventure, go someplace interesting. We want you to do a bunch of things and acquire skills. Nobody gets out of our seminars without learning every single point. Nobody will leave our seminars, specifically my seminars, without being able to clearly, verbally articulate every point in the entire seminar. That does separate us from everything else. That's not the way things are normally taught, but we try to do everything to the most efficient way possible. We try to engineer all our outcomes. Today, we're talking about body weight training that's coming out. We have, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4 body weight training programs. No, 5 body weight training programs coming out. We started this idea about 3 years ago, but because of production schedules and because I tend to overproduce literally everything and make everything really big and extremely thorough, projects take a little bit longer. We have onboarded a new editor whose only job it is to make programs. I shoot them, I write them, I design them, I test them, I redo them. I go through a 6-month process on each program, and then I shoot it all and I give it to an editor. So that's going to get a little bit faster on our turnaround on these things. The first programs in the series were Bodyweight 101, just a simple movement from a bunch of classifications of bodyweight training, which will help people get into the idea of training. So Bodyweight 101 is the only one that doesn't have a clear articulate purpose at the end of it, because it's just meant to get people used to the concept of bodyweight training. You'll notice it has hip drops in there. If you're not doing hip drops, then you need to correct your bodyweight training. It is a basic human movement, and it's normally not in any type of calisthenics or bodyweight programs. So you'll notice a ton of our programs are based on that one specific idea. Then we had Krav Getup 1, which was a simple version of the Krav Getup. There is a Krav Getup 2 program, which is slightly more advanced. We're taking and doing the same ideas, harder, more advanced, and we're allowing people to get really good at these basic get-ups. We're calling this whole thing the Martial Get-Up series, because that is the point of the whole thing, is specifically different types of get-ups for self-defense and or martial arts. So we have Bodyweight 101, which is already out, Krav 1, which is already out. Starting, when do these go up, Ryan? Tomorrow morning. These go up tomorrow morning. Krav Getup 2, the more advanced version. Judo Getup 1, if you're a BJJ guy, that's basically a version of a technical stand-up program where we break technical stand-ups down into small pieces. Think Krav Getup is getting knocked down on your back and getting up with all of your weapons pointed forward, your hands, your knees squarely forward so you don't get bowled over. Classic, if you do self-defense, you should be really, really, really good at that movement pattern. When I see people go to self-defense seminars, I see that they are extraordinarily limited by their inability to do Krav Getups. Judo Getup or technical stand-up, same thing. I see a lot of people with really good technique in judo or jujitsu, but once again, they're lacking an ability to get up quickly and easily. Judo Getup tends to get up in the same place that you hit the ground. Krav Getup, you're moving back, but you're facing forward. Judo Getup, you're getting up in the same spot, a technical stand-up, so that you can re-engage in grappling. Prone Getup is basically a technical version of a burpee. That's used a lot if you do something like defensive firearms training. You get down with your chest on the ground and you get up. Think about popping up over a curb. But instead of teaching it as like a martial burpee or a Krav burpee, we're teaching it as a technical stand-up for a burpee. We're teaching it as a gunfighter's burpee. So that's the Prone Getup program. The Screwing Push-Up program is about rolling on your side and popping back up. So think about getting knocked down and then getting up while facing the other direction to exit a scenario. So every one of our body weight programs has a specific point. That's the thing that I like to do that I don't see other people doing that much, is I want to create a series of ideas that I know are useful for absolutely everybody. I want to take a complex skill, break it down into small pieces, make it learnable, and then make it useful metabolically. So each one of these programs has 4 metabolic formats in it. We have a 20-10 learning format for all of them. And that puts it down into the 15, 16-minute range of a workout where you're just running through the ideas in order so your brain sees what it's supposed to be. It's not incredibly difficult, but it is used as a learning module. So if you're doing something like CrossFit or BJJ or Judo, you can use the learning format as a warm-up for other types of sports. And you can alter them every day. And so you could do a learning format, Krav 1, Judo, Krav 2, prone screwing, and the last one we haven't talked about yet, beast push-up. And you can run through those and turn those into a 15-minute super useful warm-up before anything else that you do. They all involve ground engagement. So if you're going to do anything like dirt biking, horseback riding, mountain climbing, snowboarding, you can use them as a warm-up for that. But they all are still leading you towards an actual useful skill at the end. The second format that we have for all of these programs is a 30-30, a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio, which is an aerobic protocol. And you run through all of that. Then we have the target format, which is Tabata, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, repeat an exercise 8 times in a row. That takes 4 minutes, take a 1-minute break, go to the next exercise. Some of the programs have 8 movements in it, so that takes 40 minutes. That is a soul crusher. The ones that have 6 movements, like the beast push-up, that's a 30-minute workout. As usual, we have something in a 15-minute range. We have something in a 30-minute range. We have something in a 30 to 40-minute range. And then the final format is a little bit slower than that. The final format is 60-60. So they go anaerobic protocol, aerobic protocol, anaerobic protocol, aerobic protocol. We're trying to get you to get really good at specific things. When you do the learning format, we're letting you explore the movements. We repeat the learning format 4 times. Therefore, if you run through the learning format a bunch and you put it in a warm-up for other things, when it comes time to do the other formats, you'll know the movements and you can actually push on those formats. It's designed that way for a reason. The real killer, the 30-30 is about structure, breathing, and movement, endurance. The definition of endurance is the unification of structure, breathing, and movement. And so there's 2 of those formats, 30-30 and 60-60. 60-60 gets really brutal very quickly. You will get in very good shape. And then the target format is all about structure, breathing, and movement with speed. So the 20-10 times 8, the Tabata format with a 1-minute break between movements, is about pure speed. So all this is going to be on the website, follow along videos, and then they all have a book so you can track your data so you can see if you're getting better every day. Very simple format. Let's talk about this last program. The last program is called Beast Push-Up. This is based on the beast position. Beast load is a quadruped position on your hands and your feet with your knees 1 inch off the ground. Beast load is when you're all the way back. Think about a child's pose with your knees floating off the ground, turning into a push-up. You will recognize this as a Mike Tyson push-up, and we created a 3-level program for that so that people can work on that basic idea. That's all based around a movement pattern called the sliding plank, which is not normally taught in most forms of bodyweight training or calisthenics, but which is incredibly useful for making your core stronger, which will bleed over to all of your other types of get-ups. So a lot of the get-ups roll because they're fighter get-ups. They're based on a hip movement. The beast push-up is just a pure, think of it like an evil chest program that doesn't require a bench. It's core, it's abs, it's mean. And then, of course, there is some spinal rocks and things like that thrown in there to make sure your spine is working optimally. as far as a bodyweight series of programs go, this is super duper nerdy. It's all designed for no equipment. It's all designed to be portable. These programs exist this way because these are a bunch of the programs I used to make my leg work again after I was severely injured. If you follow this channel, you know that I was severely injured 15 years ago. I should be dead, and I'm not, because I did a lot of this type of training beforehand. I did a lot of judo, which made me really good at falling, because if you do judo, you get super good at things called break falls, or being involuntarily hurled into things at various speeds. But I ripped my leg in half. I was never supposed to walk, run, ride motorcycles, ride horses, jump. I'm never supposed to do martial arts again. I'm not supposed to sword fight, and I'm not supposed to do circus. And I decided that was a terrible outcome for somebody who was 28 at the time. So I designed this giant series of programs based on the most useful things that I knew I needed to do. So tons of get-ups, because the most important thing is self-defense. If you can operate your body for self-defense, then you can build out until you can eventually get back to circus arts. That thing right there is my aerial hammock. But all of these programs let me say that better. I was looking for a piece of movement that my leg didn't want to do after 3 horrendous leg surgeries. And so each one of these programs fixed a thing for me. When your knee is off, your hip is off. When your hip is off, your back is off. Suddenly you're getting psoas pulls. Suddenly you go 6 weeks at a time without being able to walk because your body is very messed up. The answer to that will always be restoring movement, and then restoring speed in movement. Structure, breathing, and movement is your cure for everything. Whether it's get out of pain or it's increase your sports performance, it's the same thing. So all of these programs originally came from me looking for something that my body wasn't doing after I got hurt, after I went through physical therapy, a 2-year process. These are all the programs I did for several years after that to return to better than I was before I was injured. The Beast push-up program is one of those. It's the final piece in my equation because it forces you to load both of your knees symmetrically. So if one knee's not bending, your whole spine will tip and you'll be able to feel it. And you can focus on restoring useful range of movement to your legs. That's what I was using it for, reintegrating the flexion of my knee with my hip, with my core into useful movement patterns. So, body weight training. We're about halfway through our body weight training idea. The whole first phase, if you want to think of it like Marvel, is all these martial get-ups. After that, we go from get-ups to get on top ofs to get overs, right? So there's 2 more phases in this idea. Hopefully we can get them done in 2 years. But go ahead and start doing these now. You've got 4 formats. I think every program has a minimum of 40 workouts in it. So now there's Judo, Krav, Prone, Screw, Beast 1, Beast 2, Beast 3 times 40. That's 210 workouts that you should do if you get the whole series, or piecemeal it up and buy them one at a time. Doesn't matter. It's designed to work no matter what. That's how we design things. What? Black Friday. We're going to start putting up all these programs tomorrow morning for sale. I'm sure all of the early adopters will find at least one problem in an edit. Go ahead and message us. If you find something that's not quite right in the edit, we have all the programs still open. I ran Beast push-up level 1 learning format this morning, and I found a 2-second error in the 15-minute program. We already fixed it. It's now being re-uploaded. But if you find errors that I'm not seeing, because I'm looking at 41, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm looking at a lot. So if you find something that I haven't seen, let us know and we'll fix it and re-upload it, usually within the day, to make sure that all the errors are disappearing. As you know, if you follow what we do here, our programs are incredibly complex, incredibly comprehensive, and we try to leave no stone unturned, but that does not mean that we do not make small editing mistakes somewhere along the line. So everything will go live tomorrow morning. Do we have a time? No. Okay. Tomorrow. You can go to the website now, and there's a little announcement thing. You can enter your email, and it'll tell you right when it goes live. We're trying to do all the things that I don't know how to do when it comes to marketing, sales, and websites. We'll get there eventually. Every day you should be learning something, and I learn a lot every day. Anything else, Ryan? No. Questions? 2 questions. Okay. Ryan is my Jamie back there, as we call him. Zach Madrone gave us 4 questions here. Heavy club question. So we're going to jump into questions now. Put questions in the comment bar, and we'll see how many we can hammer through here. Heavy club question. He has worked his way to 32.25 pound 8X club by starting at 15 pounds. Awesome. About 13 months ago, and recently purchased a fixed weight club at 45 pounds as an aspirational piece of equipment. But he couldn't resist trying to shield cast it, which he did for 30 seconds on each side safely times 4. The question, how would you recommend small max efforts with this club? I would recommend you do it just like that. So the reason the 8X exists is so that absolutely everybody can get what they want out of training. Wildman handle 4.5 pounds plus spindle 6, 5-pound weights. Sorry, guys. 1.25 pound weights, 2.5 pound weights, and spacers allow everybody, no matter what your level of conditioning, to work your way up towards 50 pounds. Our goal for gentlemen is 50 pounds. So if you buy an aspirational club like a 45, then go ahead and put it in. I like to throw in every minute on the minute sets of 10 and then run a volume cycle with it. So today I got some new clubs from Hephaestus, like a whole 1,700 pound box of clubs. So I'm running a volume cycle. I started at 45 and I'm running it all the way up to 60 because that's the heaviest they have right now. Soon they'll go up to 70 and 2.5 pound jumps, but I'm running just volume cycles of sets of 10. So if you have an aspirational club like a 45, run volume cycles for something simple like shield cast for 10. Usually should take about 21 seconds maybe to do 10 reps. And then you should have, but by the time it touches the ground, you should have 38 to 36 seconds to spare, which gets you just a little over a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio. But yeah, if you've been running your heavy club program and you've been doing 2.5 pound jumps, the whole goal of that is that you can jump to heavier weights. The whole goal is to over prepare you for heavy weights by making your technique better and better and better. If you come to a seminar, you'll probably jump up in weight faster because your technique gets better. It allows you to bear more load better. The 8X and the programs that we write are designed so that you can train on your own. And by repeating it with more weights, you get more experience, which allows you to draw better movement-based conclusions. It's pure science. But yes, if you get a big club, jump up in weight, run volume cycles, you did 4 sets. So next time do 6 sets, a different lead on each hand. So 1, 3, 5, our left hand lead, 2, 4, 6, our right hand lead, start at 4 sets, 6 sets, 8 sets, build up to 20 sets. And then keep your 8X program running for your normal club program. Get to 35, 37.5, 40, 42.5, 45. The goal is for everybody to get to 50. If you want to buy another aspirational club after you get up towards 50, buy yourself a 55. I know Hephaestus makes a 55 steel, which is super good. A very nice steel club, indestructible. It'll last longer than Civilization. Our goal used to be to get everybody to 50. As companies listen to what I'm saying and they follow the programs, they realize that we're going to get people up to 70, probably without too much trouble, because all the weights are there now. Before, the weights didn't exist, so people didn't get this far. Now that all the weights are there, everybody can get this far. And Zach is running a bunch of other programs in the Tetris of training. His club weights, I just lost my comment bar. Ryan, how do I get my comment bar back? I lost it. I don't know what I touched. It disappeared. Share screen, share. What about that? Sorry, guys. No. What about that little gear? No. Every time they change something on these things, I lose an ability to figure it out. Here, should I pull it up on my phone or something? Yeah. Do exit full screen, press and hold escape. There we go. Escape. Press and hold escape. Hold on. No. Okay. Hold on, guys. We're going to figure out how to get my comment bar back so that we can figure out what the comments are here. Can you pull it up on YouTube Studio here?
You can pull it up the live.
Here, go for it. Okay, guys. Sorry about that. We'll get back to this in a second. Give me a minute. Let's talk back about the Beast push-up program. The Beast push-up program is based on that sliding plank. If you're not familiar with the sliding plank, it's the most evil piece of body weight training you're probably not doing. And the whole program is really built around that until we can build that Beast overall push-up. What's going on here? Okay. Ryan, can you read me another question?
Yeah.
One moment. KD asked a question about walking patterns. Just turn the volume all the way down. Okay, KD. Walking question. Will I be making a program to restore walking properly using the glutes? KD is struggling to understand proper movement patterns to walk. KD has gone through deconditioned program, ITK program, working on kettlebell swing and one-handed club now. Was doing clean and press and basis of strength previously. So in the beginning, what we're talking about in our training is mostly standing back up. So if you're running deconditioned, can you open it on this, please? If you're running deconditioned, then that program is just about standing up, because something like 250 million people in America have lost an ability to stand up well. It's actually worse than that, I think. The number for metabolically healthy people is 7 to 9% of adults. That's horrific. And 40 years ago, when I was a kid, it was 95% metabolic health. Now it's 7 to 9%, which is the most horrifying number you have ever heard. That should terrify absolutely everybody. The majority of fitness programs are not about getting people to stand up. They're about performance, but only 7 to 9% of the population can use normal athletic training. And that's it. It's even lower than that. Something like even 2%, because only people who are metabolically healthy and have athletic training can tend to do a lot of programs. So we start to working on restoring metabolic health with the deconditioned program. It's a squat with a lightweight, a deadlift in a suitcase position, a weight on one side of the body, single arm press. Then there are integrated club movements, which are inside circle, outside circle, shield cast. And then there are Indian club movements, something that everybody can find something useful for in a progression for each one of those things. Then it goes to intro to kettlebell, which is once again, not just about standing up, but standing up and holding a weight at shoulder height. This is called a clean. I want people to learn to do it with kettlebells, because getting to metabolic training is what we're trying to get everybody to. So intro to kettlebell is in a metabolic format, 30 seconds of work, 30 seconds of break, 5 levels. So in order to get a more metabolic training format out of it, you would just flip levels every day. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. Do it X number of times through, go up in weight. That is the point of this piece of equipment that we have with bells of steel. This is the adjustable Mark II, because we thought it was hilarious, kettlebell. with a big enough hand window that even people who are my size, 6'2", 240 pounds, can use this weight, adjustable from 6 to 12K. After that, we want people to get into swings, which is really hard on metabolism, which allows people to get much stronger. And then running from that into clean and press, get even stronger, get more cross-body stabilization. And then we want to get people into club training and single arm club. So single arm club is the step before we get to what you might call gait training or making your gait better. There is a Gait program that we shot last November. It's not edited. The problem with it is that I don't want people to jump into the Gait program without having done single arm club with at least 3 weights. So we're trying to solve all the problems one step at a time before people get to them. The goal is to get people from a hospital bed, 3 knee surgeries, diabetes, overweight, deconditioned, whatever those factors are, and to get them to climbing a mountain. I want everybody to be able to climb a mountain at the drop of a hat. I want you to be able to jump into a BJJ competition at the drop of a hat. No warm-up, street clothes. That is my end goal for everybody. So there is a Gait program out there. You've done all the correct training leading up. Work on your deconditioned. We'll work on standing up, work on ITK, getting weights to shoulder height, work on swings, which starts to get hip snap endurance power, which is all glute focused, clean and press, cross body stabilization, your transverse abdominis, which is what you really need. Two-handed club, all the rotations of your spine so your body can freely move to go to a Gait program. Your single arm club, which gets even more specific, it does not let you cheat in any way, but you're training either ipsilateral or contralateral load for the core. And then after that, there is a Gait program. That Gait program is based on swinging weights in walking positions and then adding up into different types of steps while swinging weights. So the program does exist. It was written 3 years ago. We shot it, a bunch of it last year, but we haven't finished the edit on it yet. So yes, KD, that is coming. I've seen other people do Gait programs, but they do just jump right into a Gait program without doing any of the stuff in front of it. And so it only really works for maybe 1% of the population. I'm trying to make it work for 99% of the population. So we're trying to fill in every conceivable step of the way. Thank you for that question, KD. Was that a cult of Hercules? I thought it was Cult of Athena. Sorry. Thoughts on running a club program in parallel with swimming 5 days a week, 2 a day? Absolutely. Running a club program. This is a question from Cult of Hercules. A club program and a swimming program go together incredibly well. If you're swimming 5 days a week, I'm sure you have a structured swimming program, which is based on different types of interval training. Some days you're swimming just 100 repeats. Some days you're doing 400. Some days you're doing 800s. Combining it with clubs, the most important thing that you're going to do is you're going to run two-handed club, single arm club, two-handed club, single arm club, two-handed club. And next week, it'll probably flip and go single arm, double, single. So you can just flip. So you need to be running something like BJJ Club 1, which is the mill squat program. If you want to just start stacking weight, 5 movements, 4 rounds, 3 levels. Do level 1, level 2, level 3, level 1, level 2, level 3, and you can just start stacking weight, right? Your goal is minimum 50-pound club, Cult of Hercules. If you're really going Hercules, you're going to push it to 80. And then your single arm club will quickly become the light day, where you're going to be focusing on that single arm pattern. Clubbing and swimming go together incredibly well because they're both endurance lat core exercises. Depending on what stroke you're doing. If you just run the club program, you're going to be hitting all of those muscles over and over and over again. Clubbing is going to be in a different breathing format entirely. Swimming in through the mouth, out through the nose. When you're doing your stroke, depending on what stroke you're doing, for clubs, usually it's going to be in through the mouth. It's going to be in through the nose, out through the mouth. If you're getting really hardcore with your club training, then it's going to be only nasal breathing the entire time. But that depends on how much time you're putting into the pool and everything else, whether or not you're going to do that. So I think that running a swimming program and a club program is an incredibly good idea. If you want to make it even better, 2-hand club, single arm club, kettlebell swing, a 3-day cycle, and run that 3-day cycle. So it'd be like 2-hand single arm swing, 2-hand single arm. Next week would start with swing. That way, if you run it that way, it'll keep your weights alternate staggered from your swim days. Depending on your swim structure program, but a lot of guys who are doing swim programs do Monday and Wednesday one thing, Tuesday, Thursday one thing, Friday something else. Depends on who your coach is. But if you run those three, if you ran something like swing, 2-hand club, and single arm club, and then in 5-day-a-week program, it would keep knocking your swing onto a different day. After a couple of weeks, it'll repeat. After 4 weeks, it'll start to repeat, but then your swimming program should change. So that is the beauty of the Tetris of training, is that you never end up, the goal is to never end up in overtraining, because everything is rotating itself. This keeps you from having to take specific down phases as much. If you're doing something like Olympic lifting, you lift really hard for like 4 to 6 weeks, and then you have a deload week. By doing the Tetris of training that we're talking about, you can kind of avoid deload weeks. Joe H. Joe H has a question. He heard me mention on a podcast that the full heavy club program was for ballerinas. Would you elaborate, please? He's on his third run. Yeah. So originally, the first version of club that I wrote was 7 movements in 4 levels, 28. When I was working with actors who needed to put on muscle faster for roles, we created the mill squat, which takes out the lunge pattern because it tends to be done in fight training or get up training. And it takes out the gun get up. Once again, the get up family starts to become some part of other training. If you're training fights for 2 hours a day, the get up training is there. So we're not beating it to death. So it became 4 levels, 7 movements. And then there became the actor version, male actor version, which was 3 levels, 5 movements, 28 to 15, so that they can rack up and weight faster. And they're making up the other families of movement with the specific training they needed to do for the action scenes that they were doing. The full program, the 7 level times 8, 56 movements, was originally created for models and ballerinas, because they did not want to go up in weight. The whole goal was to get them more complexity, which makes people more graceful on camera, but not stacking load on top of their structure, because they have very specific size requirements that they have to still meet. How do you make models or ballerinas move better, stand better, breathe better, have better presence? Was you added complexity so that their structure, their breathing, and their movement became more integrated. So the giant basis of strength program was originally designed for runway models and ballerinas. The side effect of it is it makes everybody move way, 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 way better. So as the population has gotten more deconditioned, they have less metabolic health, we want people to spend more time at the lower weights on their own, so that they are restoring what they really should be doing. There's tons of basic human movement patterns in there. So it was originally designed to magnify and make people move better who had specific size requirements. You could, if you run the whole thing up to 50 pounds, it doesn't matter. It takes you longer to get to 50 pounds, but you get a better result than you do with mill squat. Mill squat assumes that you're doing some other type of athletic training with it. Basis of strength assumes that you're doing it on its own. so that you need all the movement patterns. It's an interesting idea, but everything can be tailored towards a goal. The majority of people need to move better. I don't know anybody, I'd never have anybody come into one of my seminars and not learn to move better. Armored combat fighters, ballerinas, models, actors, Army recon, whatever, right? People need to move better. The basis of strength program, when I wrote it originally for models and ballerinas, I realized that it was making military guys with back injuries way better, way faster than just doing mill squat. I had a bunch of guys from my hometown, military guys. They all have the exact same spinal injury from when the military realized that their program sucked, and somewhere in the Iraq-Afghanistan thing, they realized that they had all these guys who looked really good who were doing bodybuilding, but they couldn't drag guys in kit out of the fight. So they reinstituted another series of tests. There were 3 drags and 3 carries. But they really didn't do prep work before they just instituted it. So a lot of guys, because it's a time test and because military guys are all about ramping way up, not way down. If you get a guy my size who's 240 pounds, plus he's got on body armor, kit, a rifle, helmet, nods, and everything, they start weighing, over 300 pounds. And they had people trying to pick people up in fireman's carries and sprint with them. So tons of people ended up with the exact same lower back injury across the board, thousands and thousands of dudes across the country. So I had a buddy call me and say that he was in an incredible amount of pain. He was now on disability. He was now, they had given him opioids, and now he'd become an opioid addict because the military was just throwing opioids at him. And so I had him run Basis of Strength, the ballerina program. And we kept him at a lower weight, but we worked on the complexity in his back injury. Now he's back to living his life, right? He's now no longer taking the pain meds of any type, right? He's off of that completely. He can now walk up and down the street again, right? We've restored his life by having him do the program for ballerinas. So where it started with a ballerina model idea, it expanded out to people with severe spinal injuries, because the majority of the people in the world in modern American society or Western civilization, over 60% have persistent back pain. Our recommendation for Basis of Strength recommended to everybody. If you have any type of back pain, that's the program you should do, because you spend more time at lighter weights working on complexity. Extremely long answer, but yes, it was originally written for that. And now it is recommended for everybody, specifically military law enforcement guys or wildlands firefighters, because they tend to lift a lot of heavy stuff. So spending more times at lighter weights and improving their movement, integrating their structure, their breathing and movement has become the best recommendation I can make. You got something for me over there, Ryan? Human A. Question from Human A. Always love this name. Thank you, Mark, for all the great stuff. What are your thoughts in combining Kung Fu and Kettlebell and Mace programs? I think that those are obviously meant to go together. For those of you who don't know, I've spent 30 years doing martial arts. I originally started with jiu-jitsu back in the 80s and the 90s. Super Miyagi Cobra Kai back in the day. And I was a brown belt in jiu-jitsu back in the late 90s. After I came to Los Angeles, I watched a ton of Jackie Chan movies when I was young, and I wanted to learn Kung Fu. So I spent years studying Kung Fu beneath the Buddhist temple in K-Town on 3rd Street. If you're familiar with Los Angeles, there's an area called K-Town, Koreatown, the largest population of Koreans outside of Seoul or something like that. And there are a bunch of martial arts schools. One old school hardcore Kung Fu school there. It was taught by Master Choi. It was a version of Shaolin Long Fist. I went and I trained 2 hours a day, minimum 5 days a week for like 7 years, right? I would cycle there. At the end of every day, we would train for 2 hours minimum, and I would cycle home. I got infinitely better and more endurant the second I added kettlebells into that program. When you look at traditional Kung Fu, kettlebells are in there. They're called stone padlocks. They're kettlebells carved out of granite. They don't go bad. They're used in a ton of different ways in traditional Shaolin training. That did not make it to America. So when I started doing kettlebells, I got infinitely stronger immediately. Within 6 months, I was substantially faster, way stronger. I added 20 pounds of muscle immediately. Everybody wanted to know what I was doing, and I said kettlebells. And now that the internet is what it wasn't that back in 2000 when I started kettlebells back in 2005. You couldn't just find video of Shaolin Stone Padlock. I read a reference to it in a green covered book on Long Fist that I read in like 2005. And so I went out specifically looking for it. Now you can find it because now the internet and your phone is totally different. iPhones have changed the world. So you can find that footage immediately. Back then, I tried to go to China to learn it. Nobody taught me. When I stumbled across Russian kettlebells, I learned that it is the same thing. There's actually a reference in Bruce Lee's The Art of the Human Body, which I got in like 1995. There is a reference to kettlebell swings in that book. It just nobody knew what they were. Nobody had heard of kettlebells in America until at least 2001. They didn't get popular until 2005. So they are a part of kettlebell. They are a part of Kung Fu training. Same thing with Mace. This is a Badlands Wildman mace. So most of the maces that are out there are the made in China ones you get from like Onnit or Garage Fit or other companies like that, but they're not really being designed as weapons. These ones are designed by Wes Fenton and me. He's an armored combat fighter, international champion armored combat fighter. So we designed our maces as weapons. If you learn Mace, you're learning essentially the basis of all the 18 weapons of Shaolin. There are 18 weapons of Shaolin, and that was their strength training. Each weapon was a different length. Each weapon was a different weight. So by just cycling the 18 weapons, you were doing weight training. When you think of Kung Fu as being fight training mixed with fight CrossFit from 1,000 years ago. I love CrossFit. CrossFit's great, but it's not specific, right? It's track and gymnastics and Olympic lifting shoved together. You can make that more specific. The more specific you make CrossFit for violence, the more it turns into Shaolin Kung Fu training. So yes, I think that combining Kung Fu with kettlebells and mace, and I think heavy club is the best possible strategy. If you want to understand the concept of Kung Fu, as opposed to something like modern MMA training is about fighting one guy of equal weight on level ground with no weapons. Awesome. Do it. BJJ, fighting one guy on level ground. No knives, no guns, nobody kicks you in the head. There's no third guy. You should totally do it. Judo was originally armored combat grappling, right? Judo, back when it was jujitsu, before they took out the armor, it was two samurai with spears getting inside spear distance, closing, getting beyond sword, and then doing takedowns, because kicking and punching people in armor simply doesn't work. How do I know? We have suits of armor. We have armored combat guys, and kicking and punching people is a terrible idea. Unless you have a giant shield in your hand, then you can shield punch people in the face. Kung Fu is a very specific design strategy. And if you understand that design strategy, you understand why it's there. It's fighting multiple opponents with weapons on unlevel ground. Unlevel ground, very key. The way that the foot movement is different than modern Western sport foot movement. Boxing foot movement assumes that you're on level ground and you can jump up and down and nobody's behind you. Right? Kung Fu is a flat-footed art because it's supposed to be on the side of a mountain. And if you try to do boxing footwork, it doesn't work. You'll fall off the side of the mountain. If you come to one of our staff seminars, you will quickly figure out that it's Kung Fu based. It's multiple opponents with weapons on unlevel ground. So we like to take it from warehouses to parking lots to forests on the side of mountains. So that you can work on all of these ideas. I highly recommend you do all the types of training at some point in your life. There are a lot of guys out there who tell you that Kung Fu doesn't work, and that's because they're not fighting with swords and they're not fighting in the forest. The second you're fighting with swords in the forest, it is Kung Fu. MMA disappears, right? MMA is, if you push MMA, you'll notice as MMA evolves, it starts to look more and more and more like Shaolin Long Fist Kung Fu. It is simply a recreation. If we let it run long enough, it'll turn exactly back into Shaolin Long Fist Kung Fu. You've seen all the kicks that people said didn't work suddenly showing back up in MMA. And every now and again, you'll see somebody pull off a tornado kick or something that doesn't work. But somebody just made it work. So it started back with boxing, wrestling, and grappling. And it looked a lot like, how's that word? Plankration, the Greek art that's beyond boxing, beyond wrestling. It's their version of MMA. And then if you take MMA and you run it long enough, it looks like Long Fist. And the second you make it 3 opponents with weapons, it all turns back into Kung Fu. It all turns back into Kung Fu. Good. I can talk about that subject forever. You got another good one? What? I love sandbags. So here's a question. What do I think of using sandbags? I think you should use sandbags. I think you should have a bunch of them. They're super cheap. I've got 2 on the farm in Ohio that have been, I specifically have left them outside for 3 years. A 150-pound bag and a 200-pound bag. They're not even in the barn. They're just outside on a steel table because I want to see how long they last. Thus far, they're totally fine. I imagine eventually they will degrade, but the sand is fine. As much as I love watching Olympic lifting, I simply have never had the time or the opportunity to really do Olympic lifting. To me, Olympic lifting was always kind of like a rich man or a rich man's area kind of sport, right? You have to have specific gear. Barbells are huge. You can't travel them around the world. They don't go in the back of your sand rail. You can't take them for a 5-day trip across a mountain with you. Barbells, and they require a huge amount of time that I simply never had in my life because the amount of time that it takes to do that is an entire judo class, right? So Olympic lifting, I know a ton of people who are very good at it, and I love to hang out with them. I'll go to the gym and hang out with them. I'll do kettlebells. They'll do Olympic lifting. I'll do sandbags. They'll do Olympic lifting. But Olympic lifting, your standard program is like 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, right? So it takes a huge amount of time. I'd rather do kettlebells for 30 minutes and do judo for an hour and a half. But if you want to work on your moves, there's a great Krav Maga trainer, Jared. I can't remember what his last name is right now. I'm going to say it wrong. In Australia, great Krav Maga trainer, super cool. And he does sandbags every day, and he's lifting 250 pound. I think I saw him lift a 300-pound sandbag. If you can lift a sandbag, all the lifts are the same: kettlebells, clubs, dumbbell, barbell, Olympic lifting, sandbag. You're still working on cleans. You're still working on squats. You're still working to overhead, right? Sandbags are really close to stone lifting. I love stone lifting. There is no better type of power lifting, in my opinion, than sandbag lifting. It's the most affordable. It's the most real. If you've ever been a carpenter and you've built houses, if you've ever been a farmer, you will find that sandbag lifting is the basis of all of that. It's odd object lifting. I wrote an entire program around this. Almost nobody's done it, but I wrote a huge program around this idea. It's the slam ball program. The slam ball program can just be done with sandbags. Start with a 40 or 50-pound bag, add 10 pounds, there's 5 levels in it, run each weight maybe 4 times, add 5 pounds, and keep running it. Run it until you're doing the slam ball program with a 150-pound sandbag. You'll be a monster. There is no better type of lifting out there in my mind as far as pure lifting, not weight swinging, kettlebells and clubs, weight swinging. pure lifting, there is nothing better that's easier for everybody to do than slam ball / sandbag lifting.
I don't know how easy that was going to be.
I'm not going to answer. No, that is a whole biomechanical conversation. KD, here's a question from KD. How does club training affect the parasympathetic nervous system and the vagus nerve? If you really want a super in-depth answer to that, talk to Summer Huntington. Her entire program is about that. Short answer, by restoring natural structure, breathing, and movement, and restoring your body, you get a parasympathetic response. Essentially, you get calmer because your body is doing what it is actually designed to do. There's a big reason when people start doing things like club training and kettlebell training together, they get much calmer. Their anxiety tends to disappear. It's because it is affecting their parasympathetic nerve system. If you want the super answer to that with an hour-long answer, that's the Summer Huntington question. I'll give you the short answer. She can give you the long answer. She talks about it in all of her seminars extensively because she has a master's in kinesiology. I was a biochemical engineer. She's better at talking about that subject than me. My answer, it affects you. You can tell because you get calmer. The more kettlebell and club training you do, and the more self-defense training you do, the calmer you get. You're getting a parasympathetic response. Hip drop question from Jamie Haley. Can you elaborate on the importance of hip drops, please? Yes. A hip drop. In the gym, people tend to do a Russian twist. They're sitting on the ground, they're moving a sandbag or a med ball from side to side, right? They're trying to prep their core for rotation in relation to their hip. Classic exercise. If you don't do Russian twists, you should throw them in. If you want the useful version, then it is a hip drop. You tend to see, you'll see a lot of people who do a lot of Russian twists and they look great, but they can't get up off of the ground. I run into this stuff all the time as a trainer who deals with fighters and everything else. Doing Russian twists assumes that you're getting your movement training from your martial art. If you're not doing a martial art, or if you're doing a grappling art, then you should convert those into hip drops. Hip drop is your basics of your movement for Turkish Getup, for Krav Getup, for Judo Getup, and for prone Getup. If you're a wrestler, if you did any type of wrestling, they're called sit-throughs, and you do them infinitely. If you're really hardcore, you do them a lot. It's the basis of a gun Getup as well. So the hip drop is incredibly important. Two versions of it: two-handed down, where your hands stay on the ground, you drop your hip. That forces you to get to your full range of motion for your spine. Motion. Two-hand down allows you to work to get the range of motion for your spine. If you can't do that movement, you can use that as a movement test, and you can go, wow, there's something I can definitely get better at. There's also a one-handed version where your upper body rotates, your spine stays straighter, and you tend to work on that version for speed. After it goes from the hip version, it becomes a sit-through leg. Same thing, two hands down, work on the full range of movement of the spine, and then one hand down, work on speed. You'll see this shows up in every type of wrestling. There is no type of wrestling where this is not super important. It is, I talk about it a lot because it also goes into Turkish Getup, gun Getup, Judo Getup, Krav Getup, etc. All the Getups use this movement. Any type of wrestling, any type of BJJ, doesn't matter where, that is a primary movement pattern, and you should get really good at it. If you have any type of back pain, that should be the thing that you're doing. You should dump Russian twists entirely. Russian twists will make you look better, but they probably aren't going to remove your pain because they're not going to fix whatever's wrong in the movement pattern itself. So when we're always talking about things, why we choose things, if I can come up with more than 3 reasons to choose something, then I choose it. if I can find it in as a primary movement pattern and a ton of stuff, it's absolutely something you should train. It is a basic human movement pattern. So the hip drop is a basic human movement pattern. And I can name you 50 versions just of hip drop. If the ab program has something like 25 versions of it in there, because it's that important. So we wrote this ab program, which is a kicker. It's designed to go on top of any other program, bodybuilding, CrossFit, BJJ, doesn't matter. There are 3-minute edits, 4-minute edits, 5 minutes, all the way up to 9 minutes right now. The editing team has up to 14-minute edits to do. And then there are an additional 80 that we're going to do for like up to 9 minutes. Basically, what we're doing is taking 50 core movements. There are like about 10 aerial core movements, which you might recognize as being something like Pilates, that are designed to make you better at stuff like this. Aerial circus arts. Think of it as a Pilates-based movement. Then we have a prone get-up movement. Think of that like a plank-based movement. That's in there. Military, law enforcement, firefighter. And then the get-up family of movement, which I consider to be the most important family of movements. So the ab program has 25 versions of the hip drop in there. 2-hand, single hand, sit through leg, 2-hand sit through leg, sit through leg push-up, sit behind push-up, sit behind twist. That movement shows up over and over and over again, and you are never done with it. So in the ab program, every day has some version of that in there, almost every day. There's currently 140 ab workouts in there. About 130 of them all contain some version of a hip drop or multiple versions of a hip drop. It's incredibly important, incredibly important. So yeah, if you were to do anything, if you were going to dump aerial abs and dump prone get up abs or burpee abs, then you would just do sit through hip abs, get up abs, hip drop abs. It's the most important family you can do. Kettlebell and club training for fat burning. Almost everything in kettlebell and club training should be fat burning. We're working. So when we think about the layout of kettlebell training, swings, endurance, hip snap tends to have a ton of fat burning effect for almost everybody. Before that, we have training for deconditioned individuals. Then we have pick up the bell, which is intro to kettlebell, rack training, which is already a metabolic format because there's 5 exercises in 4 rounds, and then 5 levels of that. By changing the movement every day and by working at a 30-30, you are pushing yourself into a fat burning protocol. Then it goes to swing program. Swing program is where people get the most metabolic format in the least amount of time, and you're never done with swings. You start at 10 sets of 6. You change it over the course of time. You get to 10 sets of 20. You get stronger. You get more endurant. And you're definitely going to burn fat in that program. Absolutely no question. And once again, you're not done with that. We recommend people go up to at least the 70 for men and at least 20 to 24K, 44 to 45 pounds for women before they step away from that program for a while. But you can come back and then you can do kettlebells again with double kettlebells. Then you can go to these monster bells. Great Lakes Cheer is making us monster bells. I think he's making like a 400-pound bell. I don't even think we'll be able to move it without a forklift. I don't know anybody on the planet who can move that, but I'm sure somebody can, but we're going to try anyway. But kettlebells do something unique in all of the fitness world. We have a whole program that we're shooting right now, which is going to be 250 different metabolic formats for kettlebell. Think about your basic movements in kettlebell: swing, clean, snatch, press, squat, get up. 3 basic versions of a snatch: full snatch, half snatch up, half snatch down. That takes us from 6 to 8, and then break down a get up into a bunch of pieces. I have about 10 favorites. So I think we're going to have about 18 variations. Now combine those together in all the ways possible and assign them random numbers of reps and do it for time. There is nothing else on the planet that does that. The metabolic conditioning format means that you can never adapt to what you have to do, which means your metabolism has to continue to function better every day. This is deconditioned, get it to rack position, swings, clean and press, get up, squat, snatch, after snatch, metabolic conditioning forever, 5 days a week forever. I've been doing it 5 days a week because I'm trying to make sure this program makes sense, and then double kettlebells. If there's a better fat burning thing on the planet than kettlebells, I could not even imagine what it is other than fight class. Fight class. No, somebody's always trying to disrupt your breathing, and the output is different every second, every day. The goal is to get people to the point where they can survive fight class. A lot of people are going to fight class, but they're so deconditioned and their metabolism doesn't work well at all. So they're not getting what they want out of it because 60, 70% of the population is now deconditioned. The number is 40 to 50% is obese. We now have to work a metabolic program to get people metabolically healthy enough so that they can then get to the point of like doing fight training or riding a bicycle across the continent or something like that. But if there's a better thing that does the unification of structure, breathing, and movement better than kettlebells, I have no idea what it is. I could not design a more perfect thing. I've been trying for 15 years. There is nothing. Clubs do something very similar. So whereas kettlebells can quickly push above zone 2 heart rate, if you're a guy and you're doing a 10-minute set and it's say 4 squats, 3 presses, 8 snatches, you do that, you change hands and you go for 10 minutes. That can very quickly push you well above zone 2. It pushes you into an anaerobic protocol, which you definitely need. If you alternate clubs one day and kettlebells the other day, kettlebells can push you well above zone 2. Clubs, because of their weight, tends to keep people in zone 2, in the fat burning zone. This is why I talk about alternating kettlebells and clubs. If you do nothing else, do a kettlebell program, do a club program, get a competition adjustable weight. You have every weight, build up to 32K, get an 8X, start with a lightweight, build up to 50K. By alternating those things, just any program, not even my program, any program, alternate those two things 5 days a week will have a fat burning effect if you're going up towards your goal weight. It's impossible to fail. Impossible to fail. One day it'll be zone 1, zone 2. The next day it'll be zone 3, zone 4, and it'll jump back and forth. And because any program can repeat infinitely in a different way, there's no way to adapt to it. There is nothing better for fat burning and metabolic health than those two things. That doesn't use any equipment and doesn't force you to leave. Walking uphill at a 15-degree slope for 30 minutes a day will also burn a shit ton of fat, but it won't make you move better. It won't integrate your structure, your breathing, and your movement, and it won't make you better at basic human movements, like getting up off the ground, lifting and carrying things overhead, or throwing patterns. So kettlebells and clubs will always be the answer until somebody comes up with something totally different. I have no idea what it could be. Kettlebells, clubs, and maces are carved into stone walls all over the planet because people have been using them because they're the best thing for thousands of years. I always say this, if you're ever in London, go to the British Museum, go to ancient Egypt, you'll see the Rosetta Stone, turn left and walk down the hall of ancient Egypt into Acadia and count how many clubs and maces are on the walls carved into stone there. Last time I counted like 50. I would love to go through all the museums of the world and do an audit on how many times clubs and kettlebells and maces and staffs show up carved into stone, because it's a lot. If you go to Asia and you go to any of the temples, you tend to have a temple guard on either side of the gates. One of them tends to have some version of a sword. The other one has a club. They show up everywhere in history, in every culture, because they're so good. Metabolic training, fat burning, kettlebells and clubs alternate. It'll work itself out no matter what. Let me find another good question here, guys.
Keep this one short. Best hip exercises for improving breaststroke and butterfly swimming.
Best hip exercises for improving breaststroke and butterfly swimming. Breaststroke. I'm just going to go ahead and say mills, because the movement is not, you're training the muscle chain but not the movement pattern. So when you're swimming, you're doing your specific movement pattern. We want to train the muscle chains of integrating your shoulder, your core, and your hip. I'm going to, off the top of my head, say club mill, because that's the thing that integrates that line the most. Just let me read one here. Randall Davis, Red Force Chinese Boxing. Randall Davis, always commenting on stuff. We send each other memes like every day that relate to martial arts. He's a Wing Chun guy out of Colorado, and he knows more about Wing Chun nerdness than anybody I know, and double butterfly swords, which are super fun. If you don't train them, you should. It's years of entertainment. As much as the clubs can fix our posture, movement, and alignment, do I also think club training can help regulate an out of balance nervous system? Absolutely, yes. Club training will help regulate an out of balance nervous system. The majority of the people in the modern world are stressed out of their minds, and this shows up in their body as excess fat storage, because their cortisol levels are so high. So think their hormones are out of balance because the majority of people exist in a state of fight or flight. iPhones have not helped that much at all because we have access to so much chaotic information at once. We're not sitting down at the end of the night and just sitting in front of a fireplace like I did when I was a kid. When I was a kid, we had two channels, Channel 44, which was the Christian station, and NBC, and that was it. You spent the majority of your time outside. I split firewood every day for 45 minutes. I fed the horses every day, and my nervous system had a lot of calming stuff. There's a lot of natural sound, natural environments, natural action. In the modern world, people are very much lacking that. Only 1% of the population is a farmer anymore, and almost none of them are using traditional farming methods. Almost nobody has things like horses anymore. I'm shocked by how many people simply don't understand dogs, because dogs are no longer living in a natural environment. That's why dogs can be crazy now as well. They're not living outside with animals like they're supposed to be. When you do club swinging, you're doing movements that your body wants to do. That tends to help people regulate their nervous system down. The people tend to get calmer. That's why I tell people to get out of a gym and go train outside if at all possible. I'm not a big fan. Gyms are cool. Go to gyms. I went to gyms for years. But if you can go get a kettlebell and go outside and do your kettlebell program outside before work as the sun comes up or you're watching the sunrise over the horizon, I think that will have a very good effect on your overall life because it affects your nervous system. Same thing is true of heavy clubs. Go outside, run basis of strength first thing in the morning, barefoot, on natural ground. If you can stand in the grass or you can stand on stone, do that. The majority of people in the modern world are in constant state of fight or flight. Our food is terrible. We're not eating real food anymore. Our water is messed up. Almost everything is out of balance. Clubbing tends to draw people back towards balance. They tend to realize what the human body is for when they do it. That's why I teach staff. There's no better way to convince people what the human body is actually designed to do than to have them actually do a multi-person staff fighting drill. They understand why they're doing things. Most things in the modern world are broken up into small pieces. You do lunges at the gym. You do squats. You do Bulgarian split squats. And you get really good at it. But what your brain really wants to do, your brain is designed to do certain things below the level of language. It's designed to use weapons and not get hit in the face. Structure, breathing, and movement create endurance. Anything that unifies those things and can be done outside will have a positive effect on your nervous system. Think about it as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're familiar with this concept, the bottom of the pyramid, things that you have to have, food, water, shelter, safety. Majority of people in the modern world are not doing well emotionally because they do not feel safe because their body doesn't move well. If you've never done martial arts and you don't do heavy clubs, a lot of people have a low level stress response running all the time. because their body knows that they can't do things. And you see this manifest in a bunch of different ways that we don't need to talk about in a live. But if you put people back into swinging clubs, swinging kettlebells, put them barefoot outside and have them do self-defense, the nervous system tends to quiet down measurably. And that tends to make people's lives much better in the shortest period amount of time. Jeff Roberts, here's a question about ITK. How does he maintain club skills while doing ITK? At what point should body weight training be incorporated? So this is 2 questions. Answer 1, we're putting the club track from deconditioned individuals into ITK. Ryan, when can we put the club track into ITK? It's all done. It'll be there in like a week, right? I shot it 6 months ago. I'm just trying to do 30 projects at once. It's going in. I've wanted that for 6 months. It's shot. It's all done. It just needs to be put in. So it will happen in December, come hell or high water. I will make it happen. At what point should body weight programs be incorporated? This is a big question. The small answer is whenever you think you're ready. If you don't think you're ready, certainly don't do it. Normally, because I tend to tell people this, if you've done swing program with like 5 weights, if you've done clean and press program with like at least 3 weights, if you've done basis of strength with 3 weights, then do body weight training because it's definitely going to work at that point. If you're deconditioned, body weight training is not a great idea because you have a sandbag on your body that weighs as much as you are above your ideal weight. So if you're 70 pounds above your ideal weight, asking people to do prone get-ups is not a great idea. If you threw 70 pounds of sand onto my shoulders and told me to do a prone get-up program, it would be very hard. I might survive it because I've already done all the programs. But if you're deconditioned, if you're heavier than you would like to be, then body weight training should come after you've done a bunch of stuff. Go ahead, go do all your kettlebell training, get through your swing program, get through it with 10 weights, get through your clean and press program, get up. The target weight for clean and press program for men is 32K. You get there, you can definitely do body weight training. If you want to get all the body weight training and just do the learning formats for all of them, then do that. Because the learning formats are designed not to kill you. They're designed to get you to learn the thing. So if you're close to your ideal weight and you're running a bunch of other stuff, but you want to try it, get it all, do the learning formats 10 times for each one, and then you'll still be going up on your kettlebell training, swings and clean and press being your most important ones. Rack those weights up, and you're doing the learning format. You could do the learning format before your swing program, before your clean and press program, then come back and start on the 30-30, the aerobic, then the 20-10 target series, which is the 8 rounds for each exercise, then do that. Body weight training works well if you're close to your target weight and if you've done a bunch of kettlebells and clubs. Short answer. Or if you were an athlete when you were young, then just do body weight training. If you didn't do grappling or martial arts or something with a lot of ground engagement when you were young, then it's probably not the best idea. But that's why the learning format is in there for everything. The learning format is in there for absolutely everything because we want to provide that place for people to work on the idea before they get into the hardcore thing. The goal is not to have people fail. This is different than other types of training. Bodybuilding is about training to failure because they're not training movement patterns. Because we are doing things that are, because I specifically am doing things that are useful. If you try to train club swinging to failure, you tend to drop it or rip your spine in half. So it's sub-maximal training. We just do 5 to 7% better every day. Kettlebell training, same thing. It tends to be sub-maximal training for the first several years. It can be max training in the future, but max training would mean your grip would fail, the kettlebell would fly away from you, and it would be a cannonball that was loose in whatever environment you're in, destroying furniture, walls, small animals. Getup body weight training can become max effort training because you're already really close to the ground. So you're going to work on pushing it. But getting people to body weight training, that's subjective. I tell people to run the swing program, the clean and press program first, because I know it'll work then. I guarantee the body weight programs will work. But the learning formats are there so that you can start to work on it in conjunction with any other program. Here's a question from Kyle Brewer. He is running TOI, training for overweight and deconditioned individuals. The overhead press is starting to cause a bit of pain and the small muscle tendon on the front of the weak side shoulder. It probably is. He says it's a technique issue. It most likely is a technique issue. The reason we have TOI set up so you can do it with whatever weight you have, do it with a dumbbell. But the goal is to get people towards something like this. If you're using a dumbbell, people tend to be using this front straight ahead movement, moving straight up and down, but doesn't have the rotation in it. Our goal is to get people towards a kettlebell because it allows more shoulder movement. There's squeezing in here, pec activation, opening, driving straight up overhead, getting the weight back behind them, bringing it down, and closing the shoulder all the way in. So it's probably a technique issue. If you're running TOI, I would like you to also run the Indian Club section in TOI because that's going to help people work on correcting all of these movements. Think of Indian Club as all shoulder therapy. It's all 1 pound club shoulder therapy. There are 5 follow along videos in there. There's going to be a bunch more going in. They've been shot. They just haven't been finished edited yet. But yes, if you're just running TOI, integrate the Indian Club track and then eventually get to the integrated club track because that's all shoulder therapy, right? The squat, the deadlift, the press are the metabolic part where you're trying to affect your metabolism the most. The Indian Club and the single arm club are there as shoulder therapy and lateral stabilization of the spine. Here's a question from Jeff Roberts. Jeff Roberts is working his way through the Decon program. Excellent. 250 million people can benefit from that program. That's why it's there. And he plans to start ITK, Intro to Kettlebell, at the start of next year. Should he focus on the ITK program only or combine it with something else? That is a question for you. So you can combine ITK with anything else. It is designed to integrate specifically with single arm club because you have single arm club coming out of it. You have single arm club in deconditioned individuals, inside circle, outside circle, shield cast. You can go straight into the inside. You can go straight into alternating it with single arm club. So it could be ITK 1, Intro to Kettlebell 1, single arm club. The next day, Intro to Kettlebell 2, single arm club, Intro to Kettlebell 3. That's a nearly unbeatable strategy, alternating ITK with single arm club, because we have a kettlebell program alternating with a club program. They fix each other. Kettlebells move front to back, and you're developing the shoulder catch, the clean in that program, although there are swings in that program as well, deadlifts and everything else. But then clubs move this way. One is hip hinge, one is yawing, rotating about the vertical axis. And if you're going to alternate ITK with something, alternate it with single arm club. Here's a question similar to the previous one from Jason Heath. looking to start ITK, alternating with a club program, but going back and forth between 2-hand club and single arm club, leaning towards single arm. What is the recommendation? So if we're doing ITK, kettlebell, we should alternate it with a club program. If you are bigger size than you would like to be, then the answer is single arm club, because single arm club allows you to move excess body mass out of the way and continue to get stronger and better. It has less of a metabolic effect than 2-hand club. If you are closer in size to your ideal weight, then I recommend you do 2-hand club. If you have shoulder injuries, single arm club. If you have back injuries, single arm club. If you're fairly healthy now and you want to work on more conditioning in the least amount of time because you want to climb a mountain or something, then it would be ITK and 2-hand club. ITK 2-hand, you have a performance goal to reach. You're close to your target size. That way, you're not interfering with the movement of the club based on body mass. If you have shoulder injury, back injury, knee injury, or if you are bigger than you would like to be, the answer is single arm club combined with ITK. I know that that is a specific thing. That is a weird recommendation in some people's eyes, but we try to make our recommendations super specific because we want people to get what they want in the least amount of time. So, but you have to determine that. If you came into a seminar, then I could help you determine that. But if you're training on your own, we have to set up a series of things and let you figure that out. Start with single arm, if nothing else, because single arm, if you don't know, start with single arm, because the single arm starts in deconditioned individuals and it carries right through. Jerry Heath, comment about stress level. See, Jerry Heath, in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, had no power for several weeks. He cut and stacked wood with his neighbor daily. Natural human movement in a natural human environment. Carried water, right? 5 gallons of water, 8 pounds per gallon is 40 pounds. If you're carrying 2 buckets of water, you're carrying 80 pounds. And had candles at night, natural, no blue light at night. And he felt incredible. Oftentimes at certain points in my life, I will retreat from society. When I worked in movies, at the end of every movie, I would go to a mountain, cabin in Colorado, 70 miles from Salida across the Wolf Creek Pass. And I would stay out there where there was some electricity, but it was all candlelight or lamplight at night. Everything was heated on wood, and you tended to cook and make your own food over the stove, a wood-powered stove. Your life gets substantially better when you get rid of a lot of the stresses of modern life for even a short period of time. But as we can see here from Jerry, he had to lift and carry, that's carrying water. He had to swing a lever, he's cutting firewood. That's kettlebells and clubs, right? And then no blue light after sunset. Your whole life will get instantly better. If you just get rid of blue light in your house after sunset, there's a blue light setting on your phone. You should be able to turn off the blue light on your phone. But really the goal is to put your phone down and not look at it at all after maybe 9 o'clock. Same thing with TV, if at all possible. Read a book, go to book on tape. I'm really down with the book on tape because you can lay there and listen to a story. But restore, if you just look around the warehouse here, all the lamps that are in here are candle flicker lamps. So the warehouse is lit by candle flicker at night, just because it feels better. The goal is to restore as much natural human movement as possible and restore food. Let's segue here into food intake. This is something we don't talk about all that much because we focus very heavily on the movement side of things. If people start to move better, they tend to want to eat better. I had a question about what kind of eating I advocate. And I advocate, 1950s farm eating, or more accurately, like 1910 farm eating, which means the majority of your diet is red meat and eggs. As a trainer, I used to work in Hollywood as a trainer, and you ate all the stuff you were told to do. Eat 6 meals a day, which is absolute nonsense. And eat all the supplement bars that they want to sell you because they're perfectly balanced or whatnot. That tends to not be the best idea. The best idea is really to eat the way that somebody ate in like 1890 or 1910. Buy a half a cow, eat a steak every morning for breakfast, eat 6 to 12 eggs every day. And then after that, you can kind of do what you will with modern food. But getting back to natural movement, getting back to some shoes off in a natural environment, getting back to no blue light after sunset, and then eating real food will do miracles for most people's overall stress level. Gil Michelini says something's wrong with the webpage. Ryan, will you try and pull up the webpage on your station? He says that it looks like there's an error message from the website hosting company.
Box squats. Should you go up and weight at each depth, or go through all depths step one weight before starting?
Okay, that's a question on box squats and box deck squats. So a box squat is a squat where you sit down to a box and then stand up so you can control the depth of your squat. This is super good. Guys who are doing like powerlifting, we'll do old versions of dinosaur training where you sit down to a high box and you stand all the way up and they rack as much weight on it as possible, but they're giving themselves a firm end point, and then they lower the height of that box over time, maybe 1 inch a week, and they get lower and lower and lower. That's an old concept from dinosaur training. You can do the same thing with deadlifting, where they'll put 500, 600, 700 pounds on a bar and have that bar so they only have to move it 1 inch in their deadlift, and then every week they'll lower it an inch until they get that deadlift at that super heavy weight by just incrementally doing one space at a time, going down 1 inch at a time. That's where my idea of box squats for over deconditioned and overweight people comes specifically from that book, Dinosaur Training. I tend to do not just a box squat. My goal is to get people to squat down, lean back, and lift their feet up because it's an involuntary core engagement. And if they hold a weight in front of them, it's an involuntary core engagement. It's very hard to do it wrong. They sit down, they lean back, they pick their feet up, they're holding a weight in front, their core engages. As they rock forward, they stand up. We're building people towards a deck squat. The question is should you go up in weight at the same time you're going down on the box? If you're training with me, I make that specification every day because my goal is to get you where your goal is the fastest way. This is a question. It's up to you. The best way to do it, if you're training alone, is to keep the weight the same and to take the height of the box down. At a certain point, depending on your body size, you might have to start over and get a heavier weight because your body size might preclude you from getting back to your feet at a certain point. So you'll have to get a heavier weight to drag your body forward to regain your feet. Best answer, go lower at the same weight. If you can no longer regain your feet, go back up 3 heights and get a heavier weight and then build back down. The goal of the box squat is to get 6 inches lower than whatever the lowest possible seat in your house is. Walk around everywhere in your house that you sit down with a tape measure and then measure the height of that chair, find the lowest one, and then subtract 6 inches from that. That is the height that we want our box squat to be. And this is, once again, specifically comes from my experience working with severely injured people. I know a lot of guys who can do a limited range of movement squat with 400 pounds, but they can't get up off of the ground. My end goal is getting up off of the ground, whether it's a body weight program, get ups, a Turkish get up program with a kettlebell, a gun get up program with a club, or a deck squat program with a kettlebell, my target goal is to be able to get up quickly and easily. So my goal is always to get us down at least 6 inches below the lowest thing that we need, because that means our core fires better at the bottom of the movement. Everybody who comes to either a kettlebell or a club seminar here, nobody gets out without their squat being better. Power lifters, military guys, doesn't matter. Everybody comes out of here with a better squat. Something I hear all the time is that my body won't allow me to squat lower, and I think that that is absolute trash. I don't know how many times I've heard that. Somebody wrote that on a comment to me this week, that it's a bunch of things to do with your skeleton. And while that is true for specific types of barbell back squat, it is absolutely not true for front squats. The slam ball program, I wrote this program. I love it. Nobody's doing it, but I love it. It's probably my finest writing ever. The whole thing is about improving your squat depth. Do this. If you're a woman, start at maybe 10, 15, 20 pound slam ball, get to 60, 70 pounds. For guys, usually start 30, 40, get to at least 100 pounds. Everybody's squat will get better when you do that. And that's the point. So we're attacking squats in different programs in different ways. And deconditioned individuals, it's that box squat. We want you minimum 6 inches below the lowest seat in your house. And then we want you to start racking the weight up. And then all the body weight programs have some version of spinal rocks, regaining your feet into get-ups. And then eventually we have a deck squat program and all the other programs associated with that. But the goal is to get lower. Doing a double kettlebell front squat with 270s, you have to get lower. Your spine has to be vertical. You cannot lean forward like you do with a low barbell back squat or even a high barbell back squat. Squats change the second you put the weight in front of your body, and everybody should be able to get down to the ground and get back up, regardless of skeleton layout or whatnot. It's a basic human movement, and everybody should be able to do that. I'm sure that there are a few outliers out there, but everybody should be able to do that, and that should be everybody's goal. If me having 3 leg surgeries, a zombie PCL, a zombie LCL, all this other stuff inside my body, if I can do it, then I don't know people who should not be able to do it. You got another one over there, Ryan?
I'm just going to say the links from the programs page works. It's the links from the about page that are broken. So if they go to the programs tab.
Okay, on the website, go to the programs tab.
All those links should be.
All those ones work, and it's the about tab.
The about page. Those links are helpful.
Okay, yeah, we're already on it. We've got 3 guys working on it right now. We're trying to build a new website because we're trying to make things better for the future. But it's going through little upgrades right now. We've been working on it for 3 months now. It will get better. It will get better. The programs tab works. Does the Black Friday yeah, the Black Friday email announcement tab works. Anything else that doesn't work right now? You see anything else? He's going to keep looking, right? We call Ryan's like the guy who makes everything work here all the time. Here's a great question that I'm going to address immediately from Bandicete. Eat 6 to 12 eggs a day. Sorry, but not at the price of eggs right now. Absolutely wrong. 100% wrong. 6 to 12 eggs is still the cheapest, best nutrition you can possibly get. If you buy organic eggs at your normal grocery store, you're looking at $6 to $7 a dozen. If you go to Costco, Ryan, will you go grab me one of these egg things out of the fridge over here? The egg container, right? The egg container at Costco, get the organic. It is $4 a dozen. The average price of a hamburger at McDonald's is over $11 across the country. Across the country. I bought 12 of these yesterday, 24 dozen eggs. These are $8 for 2 dozen eggs at Costco. If you don't have a Costco membership, you're going to spend about 70% more than that at a conventional store, right? Your goal is to buy eggs in bulk. I bought 24 dozen yesterday, right? That is 6 eggs. So a dozen is $4. 6 eggs is $2. At a super expensive store, 6 eggs is $4, right? Yeah, no, that's fine. Eggs are still your cheapest, absolutely best food almost everywhere on the planet. Even though the price on them has gone up, it used to be 99 cents for a dozen 4 years ago. And then during the inflation of the last several years, it's gone way up across the board. So even your cheap eggs are 3 or 4 times more expensive than they were 4 years ago. Costco still has great prices on eggs. But eggs are by far one of the best, cheapest things you can possibly eat. Get the best eggs you can and eat them 6 to 12 a day. At the most expensive, it's $7 a day. I have a whole freezer here. I bought a half a cow from Perennial Pastures. The price of a good buffalo is $20 for 3 pounds. 2.5 pounds at Costco yesterday, right? That puts a pound at, $8 a pound. The really good grass-fed, grass-finished, you're looking at $10 a pound, right? Prices have gone up, absolutely. But here's my question. How much is your health really worth to you? I spent $150,000 on knee surgery. I spend $10,000 a year on therapy for 10 years. I spent another $100,000 on ongoing physical therapy. If you just don't eat trash food, it's actually substantially cheaper. So if you do the math and I eat minimum 1 pound grass-fed, grass-finished red meat a day, average price $8 to $10. If you go to, last time I was at Target, their grass-fed organic ground beef was $8 a pound. You're looking at $15 a day, right? A McDonald's meal is $14 to $15 everywhere in the country now. Which one's better for you, right? 2 ingredients, eggs, meat, versus all the nonsense that's in processed food. I will do math with people on this every single day. I grew up below the poverty line. I know how to eat super cheap. I still eat the least expensive way possible, but eating the cheapest food is not going to make your life better. It is going to destroy your metabolism. What? 6% of the population was obese in 1970, if I remember that correctly. Now it's 60%. People are not eating more food. The food is worse. The food is terrible. Just finding peanut butter that is just peanuts and salt is difficult. Side note, Costco has that. It's the Kirkland brand peanut butter, ingredients, peanuts, salt, right? That's it. Your average jar of Jif now is super expensive and full of stuff that should not be there. You should focus on eating 6 to 12 eggs a day. Just don't buy Starbucks ever again. If you buy any coffee out, if you eat out even once a week, then your entire argument that eggs are too expensive, the entire argument is thrown out immediately. Because fast food is now more expensive than healthy food. A hamburger from McDonald's costs more than a dozen organic eggs at a semi-decent grocery store. So if you're $8 for a dozen eggs, eat the dozen eggs. Don't eat the burger at all. So I will talk to people about this forever because I made this argument to a coach that I knew 10 years ago, and he said the same. He did that math right there for me. He said a dozen eggs that are organic cost $6 at the store. I just saw you buy a Starbucks because it was fun for $6.50. So the argument's out the window. Just buy the good eggs and stop buying the trash. We all get better at eating over time, but you have to figure out what really matters. One of the best things you can do to focus on eating better is to try to limit yourself to 10 ingredients a day 1 month, and then back it down to like 5 ingredients a day. That should be something like steak, organic eggs, the best eggs you can get, right? Yogurt, Greek yogurt with absolutely nothing in it. Ingredient, milk, right? Greek yogurt. If you're going to add something to it, it's organic maple syrup, one ingredient, right? There's your 4, right? And then find something else to eat, peanut butter, right? One ingredient, salt or peanuts, right? Your goal is to get down to a smaller number of ingredients and spend more time eating better food. Get rid of all of your Teflon, all of your pans, all of that stuff. Go find yourself a cast iron skillet, preferably one made in America. The one that I have at the farm in Ohio is well over 100 years old. The one I have here is a Lodge I bought last time I drove across the country, and I have a bunch of Lodge cast iron here. Eat cast iron, use stainless steel, get a minimum number of ingredients in your food. And don't be afraid to spend an extra $2 on the good eggs. It will make your life better. The darker the color of the yolk, the better it usually is. All right, guys. We've been doing this for almost 2 hours now. Do you see any final questions that we should cover here? Yeah, I'm going to look let's see if we can't get one more good one. Spirit Circle thanks us for our input on helping with helpful videos over the years. Thank you, Spirit Circle, for watching and for doing the work, right? We put out hundreds of videos a year for free because that's what I wanted when I was a kid on the farm, well below the poverty line, right? I wanted information and it was not available. So I had Bruce Lee's The Art of the Human Body, and I would go to the library and read Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding because I couldn't afford it, right? So I will continue to put out as much good free content on YouTube, 5 videos a week, for as long as I'm alive, because that's what I wish somebody had done for me. So if I want the world to be a better place, it's up to me to make the world a better place. It's up to you too. So I highly recommend that you continue to do good work and put work into those things. Michael Borg, program question. He likes endurance running. I like the looks of the slam ball program to supplement lower body gym training. Is there any program for endurance athletes? All of our programs are for endurance athletes. The big endurance program isn't out there yet. So here's an interesting question about endurance athletes. If you're doing endurance stuff, then your kettlebell training should be about short burst power training. So should your club. That's why the swing program has the design it does, and the Basis of Strength club program has the design it does. If you're doing endurance training, I'm assuming that means like 5 miles of mountain running or cycling for several hours at a time. I myself rode a bicycle from LA to Ohio, endurance training. Most of the stuff I've ever engaged in my life, I recognize as endurance training. If you're roofing a house 12 hours a day, that is an endurance thing. If you run distance, I used to run, forest run with an axe or a bow because America, run with something in your hands. Then you're running multiple miles across unlevel ground. The thing that made me best at my endurance training was actually kettlebell swings, the program that I have written. That's why it's there. That's why the basic goal is to get people to 32 kilograms for men. If you just do that and you get to your 10 sets of 20, your running tends to get substantially better because your structure, breathing, and movement for your absorption of force through your hamstrings, your absorption and retranslation of force tends to get much better. The swing program doesn't end. The first goal is to get men to 32K, women to 24K. But you can then go back and do the whole program again, starting with double competition adjustable kettlebells, and do the program again with 2 12Ks, which puts you back at 24K, 2 13s, to 14s to 15s to 16s to 17s, and you can walk back up, and you can do it twice a week for years and get better every time, and have a measurable impact on your endurance activity. Just with 2 competition adjustable kettlebells, this is still the best money, right? I'm obsessed with value. 2 of these will give you 41 weights, which would give you 41 increments with the double kettlebell program. And if you're focusing on that endurance hip snap, just doing that getting up to 140 pounds, 10 sets of 20, will have a massive effect on your endurance training. If you're cycling or if you're running, it'll be massive. What was the rest of that question, Ryan? So you can either do pure endurance training with a kettlebell, which I also do when I'm not running, which means learning to not put the weight down for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, up to 60 minutes. My max ever was 60 minutes with 29K, which I did in 2021 when I was staying up in Pine Mountain Club in the winter, training outside in the snow, barefoot, adjustable kettlebell. You can rack it up half Ks, built up to 29K. There is its own endurance training, but that's because I wasn't running. If you are running, then I would recommend you stay with the pure swing protocol, which is a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio, and work on stacking weight. The slam ball program will work for that. So the slam ball program is designed for 1 minute on, 1 minute off. You'll notice it's a different interval than a lot of the other stuff. There is, at the high level of the body weight training, the same thing, 1 minute on, 1 minute off, but it's pretty crazy. The slam ball program will work because it's all about the unification of structure, breathing, and movement. And the thing that nobody thinks that slam ball is going to be about is core. It is an insane core program. Start with a lightweight. There are 5 movements. 5 movements. 1 minute on, 1 minute off. Each round is 10 minutes. 3 rounds, 30 minutes. Half work to rest ratio, and then start racking your weights up. But it's all core. There's a lot of hip mobility in that, and your squat is going to get really, really, really good. So if you're an endurance training athlete, it would be an excellent idea. Your core will get stronger in a bunch of positions that you need for any type of endurance activity. I love slam ball. I don't think people appreciate slam ball enough. Slam ball, if you run out of slam balls, just go into Sandbag and you can run that program up. I'm trying to get bells of steel to make slam balls up to the 150-pound range in 10-pound jumps, which sounds really crazy. And then once I get those, I'm going to go back and run slam ball again. I'll probably run like a 70 of all levels, an 80, a 90, a 100, just because I haven't done it consistently in a while. But then I'm going to get back in and do the 110, 120, 100. It's going to get crazy. Slam ball is excellent. I have an armored combat fighter running slam ball right now because he has injuries that keep him from doing kettlebells or clubs right now. While he's waiting on a surgery, we have him doing slam ball because squat gets better, structure, breathing, and movement gets better, and core gets way, way, way better. Good. We've been doing this now for about 2 hours. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. New body weight programs released tomorrow. Start running your way through those. Learning format, 30-30 format, target format, 20-10, which is the mean one, and 60-60, which honestly, I don't know how many people are crazy enough to do. And then there will be Black Friday bundles. When do they go live? They go live tomorrow morning. There'll be Black Friday bundles where we're trying to combine things together that we think should go together in an AB or an ABC program. And we're going to try to continue to focus on communicating to people how these things interact and why they support each other. And then we want to give people distinct, clear goals so they know what they're trying to hit. That's our main thing. We want people to, I want to get more specific on the goals so that people can get more specific on laying out their timelines. Anything else, Ryan? Nope. Okay. Thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for all the questions and comments. Do good work, right? Keep training 5 days a week forever. Buy the eggs, eat the eggs, get the grass finished beef, eat that, and continue to do it. Have a good day.